Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today, no, I'm not going to be starting a new LEGO ideas submission for underwear throughout history. No, I'm going to use these two rather interesting pieces to build a ship. Now, I've had two of these pieces for quite a long time. They're called the Windscreen 10x10x4 Octagonal, Part 2598, a very catchy title, I think you'll agree. But I've been dying to get them used in my city just because, well, they're so interesting. They came in two sets, both adventurous sets, including 5988, the Temple of Anubis from 1998. And in both those Explorer sets, they were the top halves of hot air balloons, kind of with a similar bottom half as well, like that. And that's initially what I was going to do with these parts, make a hot air balloon, but that would only use one of them, and it's not really very imaginative. Then I thought of a much bigger gondola with two hot air balloons kind of supporting it, but then that's very similar to the Zeppelin that I've already got flying above my city, so I had to think harder. And what I came up with was the idea that these also look like the twin tanks of an LNG carrier. That is a boat that carries liquefied natural gas. So if you know what one of those looks like, you'll see that these look very similar, both in shape and scale, to those tanks that they have in them that are actually round, just the bottom half of it's in the hull of the boat. And they would contain all the gas that you would use for your stove at home or your heating, just taking a huge amount of it from A to B. But I don't want to just do a very normal LNG carrier because it will just be, well, another ship in my harbour, so what? I think I want to make it a lot more exciting and make an evil LNG carrier. Something to come straight out of the pages of a James Bond book or something like that. Now, who should have such an infernal contraption? Well, Dr. Inferno, probably. He's definitely the most evil and dangerous of all the baddies in Brick Nottingham. Sure, Antimatter is attacking the Brick Nottingham post building at the moment and making a right mess in the process. But Dr. Inferno isn't after small fish like that. He's after world domination. So just like the baddies in Spectre, in real life, yes, in real life, Dr. Inferno has evil schemes all over the place, and this one I think he needs a specially adapted ship for. So what hull should I use to accommodate these? It has to be a certain size to have the front here and enough room for a wheelhouse on the back. But when I asked Dr. Inferno what he wanted as a hull colour, he said, black. It has to be black. Well, that limited the choice a bit, so what I've chosen is this hull, which is 41 studs long by 12 and by 5, and that came in the set 60129 Police Patrol Boat from 2016. Now, initially, I bought a very cheap one of these on eBay just to get the hull, and it came with all the pieces. And I thought, ooh, actually, once I built it in person, because I always build things before I dismantle them into my collection, I thought, actually, I really quite like that. It's quite good. I've taken off the police stickers because they were peeling off anyway and off the front here and stuff. And I think with a few more conversions, like taking maybe this black section and turning it into white, maybe removing the searchlight and the jail cell and replacing it maybe with a little jacuzzi or something like that, and adding a few more drinks and maybe a bar, that this would be a fantastic pleasure vessel, actually. It looks rather fantastic. So, yeah, I kind of thought, ooh, I like that now, so I'm going to keep that and maybe use that in a future video. And then I saw another one, fortunately, available in a Bricklink store that I was already buying from. So I thought, aha, brilliant, genius. I'll buy a second one and use that for Dr. Inferno's evil schemes. Now, there is a slightly bigger one that's in black that's actually 51 studs long, so 10 more, so it'd be about out to here, and that came in set 7899 Police Boat from 2006. But I don't know, that one just looks too fast and sleek for a cargo vessel to me. It looks like it absolutely motors through the water. So essentially, I landed on this one, though it is relatively small. So it's not going to be hyper realistic what we're doing, because those real life ships are absolutely vast. It's going to be very much condensed. But if we look at the main features of an LNG carrier, basically we have a wheelhouse on the back, so I'll do that probably about that big. Then we have a number of tanks, and well, we'll be limiting it to 2 here. And then we have the walkway that kind of goes along the top of those tanks that links up with the wheelhouse. And then we just have to have absolutely loads of bits, bobs, gubbins, thingamajigs all around the edges to make it look like it's really complicated. So yeah, quite a lot to squeeze into a relatively small hull piece, but I think it will be condensed brilliance when it's finished. Anyway, I've witted long enough, so I think we should get on with the build. I think it's going to be a 2-parter, so I think I'm going to leave all the back part with all the wheelhouse to part 2 and just focus on those tanks and, well, let you into the secret of what the evil scheme is. Well, it could just be very simple: to corner the gas market, drive up prices and cause a global recession. Sound familiar? But I don't think even that is quite evil enough for Dr. Inferno, I'm afraid. So what we're going to have under these is some very secret cargo. Ooh, what could it be? Oh, this is the exciting bit. I love starting a new project that I've had planned for quite a while. Right, so we've got these two that are going to go on roughly about there. And the cargo that they're going to be hiding inside each of these is actually very deep indeed, but we haven't really got much depth to work with, and even then only up to about here, not fully underneath that front dome. So what I'm going to actually do is fill in this area to make it completely flat, and then we can create the illusion of depth and that really deep cargo afterwards. So I don't want to fill this with really expensive bricks that I can use for other useful things. What I'm going to do instead is use some really cheap bricks underneath the right coloured plate in order to basically fill that gap in for as cheaply as possible. And I'm going to use things like spare old train roof panels and these wedge plates here just to provide some good support, so when I'm pushing down from above, nothing sort of bows or moves. So that should all go in. Oh, there. Needs a really good pushing down. Oh, there we go. And then I can put this nice bit in the end, and that will be the lower deck of the wheelhouse. But yeah, we can't see any of that colour from those random bricks. So that's a nice firm base. So then what I want to do is kind of build the 2 tanks like that. Yeah, but I want to have a nice sort of smooth connection with the surface of the boat, and they aren't very good at connecting that. So I'm going to use loads of different tiles to make quite a complicated but quite an attractive looking setup basically. So bear with me as I do this with you live on Robin Hood Bricks. So there we go, like that. And this side I'm going to have some tiles so it all marries up absolutely perfectly. Need studs in the middle and tiles around the outside so we get that really nice join. And I'm using both the triangular tiles and these ones with the triangular corner on, just so we get that real perfect shape of the octagonal piece above mirrored in this tile layer. And the connection point for these great big octagonal pieces is actually hinge bricks. These ones that you use for all sorts of different things like shop tills and so on. There's actually 2 connections on there, so I'll actually put one on there and one on there, and that's kind of the ugly side, I suppose, but that's where they would hinge if you did want them as the old-fashioned sort of windscreen cockpit type thing. And that is functionality I'm going to be using here, so I'm going to attach that like that onto that side. And then we've got our first tank, and it's looking absolutely seamless with the deck level. But what I can do now is actually have it so it can open up to reveal its true cargo, which isn't liquefied natural gas. So yeah, that's the first level of that. So before I unveil exactly what it is, I'm going to do the same thing for the second one, exactly the same over here, and then I can do the contents for both. Ooh. All right, so there's both done, and we've got a cracking pair. Very nice indeed. Now underneath these, I'm going to be adding my second favourite 1x4 tile, after the tread plate, of course, to this, because what's inside here is very dangerous indeed. So it does definitely needs some warnings. And the black here is to represent the depth that I talked about earlier. So basically, we're going to give this another level of trim, and underneath that level of trim will just be exposed some black, which will basically be that hole into the very deep hull. I mean, it'll have to be really deep actually. Underneath the waterline, it's probably not the same as a normal tanker vessel. There we go. And one more. There we go. So what does that make you think of? Perhaps it makes you think that it's some sort of launch bay. Maybe this isn't a normal LNG carrier. It's actually a missile cruiser disguised as a gas carrier. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. This has got two holds, basically, one under each. And just like James Bond movies back in the good old days, they will open up and fire the contents to wreak havoc all around the globe. So what I really need to do next is the very top of that rocket sticking out. So this will be an intercontinental ballistic missile. And we just need to do the very nose, as I say, because the silo goes right deep into the rest of this build. So I'm using this rather sort of alarming nuclear colour in my mind, with this cone bit on the outside, and that'll leave us a tiny bit of red showing when I put on the black cone. I think that looks quite interesting sort of colour scheme, and then I can decide what to put right on the very tip, because we've got one stud there. Now my first idea was to use these little round tiles that I originally bought for fire alarms, which have just got some flames on, suggesting the carnage that would happen when these arrive at their chosen unlucky destination. But then I thought a bit harder about it and looked, well, looking isn't really the problem with these tiles, it's availability. But I found these ones, which are even better. I've got two of them. They are the sort of biohazard symbol that came with only one set, the Stealth Patrol 70169, which is an Ultra Agent set. And they came with the character Toxic Eater. She was in two sets, but this is the one where she's wearing the armour in 2015. And whoop, you only get one in that set, but you do get the spare one that you often get with very small pieces. So it's very hard to come by, but I got them on that Norwegian order a while back. So I can cap them with that poison tip. Very nice indeed. So, or very nasty indeed. So when I put that in position there, I think the illusion is complete. It looks very much like this is something you do not want to mess with. And with that just hint of black around the outside and the bright yellowish orange sort of contrasting against it, I think it gives the idea that it actually goes quite a way into that, because it probably go all the way down to about here and can fire out at will. And then the real test is, yeah, it does close still and looks very, very innocent when it's not open. So hopefully that's not too alarming for all of you to take in, but you know, it is meant as a bit of fun for Dr. Inferno. It's definitely, he's the sort of person that would have a carrier boat that had been adapted in this way. Cool, right, so I need to do the other one, obviously, as I keep doing, one at a time, and then doing the other one. And then we can start adding some normal ship sort of gubbins on the front and in these gaps, and then maybe get onto that walkway. Cool. Good, good. So another part that I've been absolutely dying to use is this one, which is a sound brick that came in the set 8634 Turbo Car Chase from 2008, which appropriately is an agent set where it's attached to the gate there, the gate belonging to Dr. Inferno, of course. And the noise that this sound brick makes is very appropriate to this build. It goes like this. Now that just reminds me of every Bond film ever when the evil guy is unfolding his evil plans and something's moving around. And it was a kind of an afterthought, so I'm going to have to work out how to incorporate this into the wheelhouse in part two. But for now, I think it will be the soundtrack to these doors opening really slowly. Revealing the two missiles inside, and I think they look very menacing indeed. But to make the boat look a bit more normal, I think we need to add some normal sort of ship stuff. So I've got another one of these mast pieces, and to that I want to add a light going forward, just to kind of light the way for the vessel, like that. And on the other side, I was going to put these two dials kind of attached this way going down, but that little bit there stops us doing that. So I figure I can adapt to that by doing it up like that, which means it's a bit higher of a display for a minifigure. Maybe they're just looking up a little bit, but I figure that one of these dials is saying that the pressure in the tank is right, or, well, would be right if they were full of gas, of course. So I'm going to put that in that gap there. I've decided to use red as the accent colour because I think we need something very bright indeed to contrast with the black and this dull tan colour. Then two winches for anchors. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have two anchors actually attached to this thing, sort of dangling off the front. Maybe it's actually anchored at the moment, so I'll just have some string going down to the water level. But I definitely like these red sort of angleable winches, one on each side. I think that looks very nautical indeed. Yeah, looking good. Then in the middle, I think we need some sort of pipes to give the impression that there is gas on this. So I've just got, Technic connectors and these macaroni pieces and so on to basically make two pipes. I have one offset towards that side and one offset towards that side. So it looks asymmetrical. I like that. Then I've got a little light for the top of the mast, which doesn't feel like it's massively connecting on. Sometimes old pieces aren't a very tight connection, but yeah, it's tight enough, so that'll do. Very good. And then I'm going to add some of the sort of tying up points to the outside on both sides as well. And these could have those things that stop it banging into a quayside as well, hanging off in due course. I'm not sure if I'm going to add those either yet, but yeah, that's looking pretty good, I think. Very colourful with the yellow as well. So there it is in closed form, and there it is in open form. So that's almost enough for today, except for the fact that I will do the walkway, I think. So this is a walkway that the minifigures can go along. Maybe they're guarding it with heavily armed henchmen. But that will link the wheelhouse sort of upper door, well, with all of the rest of the ship. So yeah, I'm going to do that. But obviously that's going to be quite tricky because these need to open and they need to open individually or together. So I'm probably going to have to do a split setup. But yeah, I'm loving the look of this so far. What do you think? Well, looking through my bag of parts for this build, I actually found all the 1x2 red tiles that I was missing for my mobile phone shop about 2 weeks ago. That caused me a bit of pain trying to find them. Obviously, I put them in the wrong bag, so there's a bit of interest for you. But also in this bag, correctly, were loads of 1x6 grey tiles with this tread plate sticker on that I'm going to use for my walkway. So I've got a pretty simple setup for the two center sections, and they're going to hang off there and there. Then the back one is going to be just a little bit different in that it's got one of these ones with the rail on, and that'll be the connection between it and the wheelhouse. So you imagine the wheelhouse will come right up to that edge, so somebody can come out of the door and walk all the way along here. That's the plan. And then for this end, I've got a slightly more complicated setup, similar but just more intricate, with a tile on the end and a jumper plate, most importantly, so I can put somebody's left leg on there and have them looking out. And we've also got the lights for port and starboard as well to make it properly naval or maritime. There we go. So there's all those tread plates looking rather fantastic, if you ask me. My favourite type of tile, and each half can easily move up and down on its own. So that is fine. Now, we don't want people balancing on this on a rocking and rolling sea because they'll get thrown off overboard. So what I need to do is add some railings. So I've got an absolute load of these robot arms to add to, well, probably 2 to each of these modified plates. So it's kind of like that. It's going to get a bit fragile, so I'll probably pause the recording to do this. And then I've got some of these pipe pieces. So I've got 2 straight ones to basically act as this section, one for each side, kind of like that. And then I've got a much longer one, which came with this sort of bend in it, but that's quite good because I'm going to have to bend it even more to get it to be, well, 3 sides of this section effectively, and I may have to trim it down, hopefully not, but if necessary I will do. So that'll be the guardrail for that section as well. So yeah, I think I'm nearly done with this first part, and it's already involving, well, absolutely loads of my favourite parts, so I'm really happy with it. And there is the protective railing in place. And I think it looks rather good, actually. The cables were all the exact right length, so absolutely no cutting required so far. It looks great from above, and especially from the front as well. It's a little fragile, so you have to spend a bit of time sort of aligning it, holding things in place and so on. And I think I could probably get these slightly closer together to make it slightly more realistic when I've got a proper bend put in the front there, but it's a bit resistive at the moment. Maybe I should try and bend it with a hairdryer, or maybe even try my patented hot tea technique and see if it works on bending pipes as well. So I can add a person onto that jumper plate, of course. So here's Robin in position on the front there. Fantastic. He looks like he's having a good time. I'm the king of the world. That looks really good. But the real test, I suppose, is whether it opens. Hang on, Robin. Oh, yes. It still opens even with all those handrails on, ready for firing position. So you would hope that the alarm had given you enough notice to get off the walkway first, I suppose. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving the first part of this build. I mean, it's a bit of a dark theme, I suppose, firing missiles at people. But nonetheless, it's just the sort of thing that Dr. Inferno spends his time planning. So it's no surprise, really. And the real view that we're going to be seeing most of the time, of course, is the view of it being a very innocent looking liquefied natural gas carrier. And if you can imagine a wheelhouse on the back of here, I think it's doing a very good job of that on what was a really quite short hull piece. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. Tell me what you think. Well, I suppose really Robin should be holding the Mrs. Hood minifigure over the railing. Not in a nasty way, just to do the Titanic scene proper justice, but nonetheless, I think this looks really great. If you can imagine it cut off there, I think this looks absolutely perfect. And the siren, oh, yes, I'm going to have to redesign the wheelhouse so we've got that in. I mean, technically, you can have an axle coming into that button and coming out of a Technic brick, so it should be quite easy to put inside on that lower deck. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. But yeah, this looks absolutely great. I think you'll agree. Hang on again, Robin. It's come off. That's probably the only weak point, that connection there. But yeah, very colourful and very menacing. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos like this one. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, it will be Monday, of course. So we'll be continuing with our wonderful double modular mall build. And it will be the last unit on the ground floor. So we'll actually have a completed whole ground level with about 3 or 4 more parts after that. So yeah, it's going to be absolutely massive when it's done. And I think this Monday is going to be one of my favourites. Then on Wednesday, we'll do a brick haul as usual, which I was really happy with the comments from the last one on as well. Thanks for that. And then Friday, well, maybe we'll finish that off as our Friday MOC, because, wow, it just needs finishing, really, doesn't it? Absolutely great. So until all of that, see you Yeah, it has to be done.